Hey squad, it's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thanks for joining us today. I wanted to dive in a story on China doing what China does best, and that's renaming stuff. So those that don't know, China has recently named a region called Arunachal Pradesh. This is a region in northeast India. So this region is one of the disputed land parts, the more eastern disputed land parts between China and India. There has been a hot war in the past, and China has taken sections of this land and unilaterally pulled out as well, but now they're back at it. And this state of Arunachal Pradesh, they just renamed to South Tibet. And I thought this was a great call out. Of course, India is dismissing this and challenging this idea and concept of this Chineseness of this part of their country. As I said, this is disputed. And this is going to be the northernmost state in northeast India. So it's going to be right on the border of China. So it's a couple things here to unravel. One is, I think, the youth of India. I think one of the reasons that India has I think, been slower on an uptake or in their revival within China is for numerous reasons, but the primary reason being disorganization. And I think that is because India as a nation state that we know it as today is a very young actual existence, but as well as a concept. Of course, India has a very old and rich history, but the actual nation state from the Deccan Plateau in the south up to the Himalayas of the north as one country, unified, is a 20th century creation or the fulfillment of that concept after the British occupation of this area or administrative control of this area. And you've seen that with a lot of India's challenges with their neighbors, dealing with Pakistan, dealing with Bangladesh, and then I finding their identity now in this world. I think the sky's the limit for India and the things it can do, but that organization for India to be a part of that tripolar world that I continuously talk about, which I thoroughly believe in, and I think it's just a matter of time for India fully embraces that role and sees itself as a global leader. Because right now, I don't think India sees itself as a global leader. It probably has a confidence of a global leader, but I don't think it sees itself in its responsibility and its duty yet as a global leader. Conversely, on the other side of this is China. So what makes China distinct is its size and its history. It's not that many countries in the world that has that size and that unified history. What allowed Europe to excel so fast and well is not because they were very big, but it was because they were very unified and united in their own individual aspects. They were able to act quickly and efficiently, and that's how they got things done. That gets challenged when you get larger countries involved. But most of the time you get a larger country, there's going to be a lot of, it would be a heterogeneous population, we'll say. If you have a situation like India where you have a lot of domestic issues, conflicting views of the world, of society, that you have to merge together, so to speak. China doesn't have that problem. This is a 80-90% plus population of Han people. These people believe in their unified history, in their role in the world. The Middle Kingdom, I constantly harp on that, the Middle Kingdom. And their ascent is not the ascent like the West, where the West was on the outs and they were cut off by the Islams, whether that be the Moors in Iberia or the Ottomans in Turkey, basically bird feeding them goods from Asia that they desperately wanted, though, those silks, those porcelains, those spices. So Europe's rise was an antagonism of that. It was against that suppression. Whereas China's rise is a recognition and a reclaiming of who they've always seen themselves as, the Middle Kingdom. They are the center of the universe, and it's very few things outside their realm that they find impressive. And it took a while with the communism. It really set the country back a little bit as far as that organization point of view. And let's back up beyond that. I'll even go so far back as to say because of the imperialism. See, China rejected the outside world until it couldn't reject the outside world. And the major powers of the outside world was partitioning China up or trying to partition China up. And you get into real seedy things such as the Opium Wars, I won't say the stealing, but the stealing of Hong Kong, pretty much. The acquisitions of their land, the flooding their country with drugs, is Japanese, the spurge, the massacres and marauding of the Japanese invaders up to World War II. It's so many things that goes into China's pain during this time because they rejected the outside world. They had this belief that many countries in this world have to this day. If we do nothing, we can ignore these people. We can build walls big enough to keep the world out. And the Chinese did not learn this lesson with the Mongols, unfortunately. Because if they would have learned this lesson, they would have realized you can't build walls big enough or long enough or wide enough to stop everybody from getting in. It's only a matter of time before they'll figure out a way to get past your defense. Because the best defense in this world is an offense. So you can't sit on the sidelines and hope that people are going to leave you alone. That's not what happened. And eventually Europeans and the Japanese did all they could, and they left China in a wreck. And China went through civil wars, China went to World War II. Eventually the communists came on board. But then the communists had rough years, you have famines, poverty, etc. And now they're coming out in that late 20th century and now in the 21st century. And especially now, I'm starting to see China make a lot more global moves in the news. And they're walking a very tight line, right? Because they're not exactly where they need to be at, but they are fast track on their way, but they're not there yet. So they haven't built up a cohesive alliance such as the United States, defensive alliance such as the United States. They haven't got all the commercial mechanisms sorted out. They're still relying on high-end technology from more developed countries. They haven't secured all their sea lanes. They have a couple bases here and there, primarily Djibouti, Africa, what I think offhand. But a lot of the other infrastructure is through commercial Belt and Road projects, etc. And Belt and Road is going through issues right now. So they haven't necessarily built up the infrastructure yet, but they're chopping at the bits. I know they're looking at Russia-Ukraine situation, and they can imagine or envision a China-Taiwan situation along similar lines. But I think China and the United States have a lot more of a closer relationship. But it's going to be an antagonist relationship because of that, because of the Taiwan issue, amongst a plethora of other reasons. And it's only a matter of time. Chinese are not acquiescing on their claim. This is, from my conversations with people aligned to China and from reading and understanding these people's history, they are not acquiescing this. They are very proud people. They have a very high sense of themselves and their realm. And like I said, I would love anybody to see a map of China from China, because I thoroughly believe they do not see themselves as China as we see them on the map, but they see themselves as China as the Qing dynasty, this massive piece of land that has been stripped down by their surrounding neighbors, primarily some land that the British Raj would have stole when it was in India, as well as Russia, as well as these, how should I say, I don't want to say puppet states, but these kingdoms on the outside. They thoroughly should be influencing Indochina. I believe they think this. They thoroughly should be influencing the events of the Korean Peninsula. I believe this. So I think China has this role that it sees in its mind and is fixated on it, and it's determined to step into this role. I always put the analogy, like China reminds me of Shaq. You know, when Shaq was in his youth, they had the Shaq attack. You just couldn't stop this guy. He was the biggest, strongest force on the field. And they had to develop little technicalities such as the hacker check, try to get him to shoot a free throw, try to draw out those weaknesses. And it's going to be hard to find a Chinese weakness. One of them is going to be energy. But as you can see, China's already starting to step in. A lot of those Belt and Road initiatives, a lot of those moves, a lot of those investments, oil-rich countries. One of the biggest trading partners for China in Africa, Angola, trying to broker or opening up relations, basically taking the intensity level down between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Major investments in Iraq through Belt and Road. So although America's been burning this trail, causing this chaos, China's come behind with money, showing up infrastructures, trying to build a more amiable relationship. So they're amenable relationship. They're coming in like the nice guy, you know, and saying, we're not here to change you. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're just bringing money. But that's a facade. And they're bringing money because they're trying to ensure their people have access to resources, which is what all countries with good sense would do, especially that many people, because it is ensure the longevity of the ruling class, or I should say the ruling order of things. But yeah, China's shack. And you really have to figure out a way to navigate around it. But what the world is trying to do, put these borders in place, whether that's Arunachal Pradesh, whether that's the South China Sea, whether that's Taiwan. But it's only a matter of time before they get to the level of development and influence where they're going to want their rightful place in this world. They're already on the UN Security Council. They're already a nuclear power. So this is a relationship that these guys are going to have to learn to deal with, India and China. And India really needs to step this game up, I think, in this regard, because I think they've been playing the second fiddle too long, and I look forward to all the amazing things that India is going to create and do and provide an alternative to China, to the developing world. So that I think that's going to help the developing world, where they can say, okay, we have America trying to get in, we have China's trying to get in, we got India trying to get in. So our options have been proven, and they can make the best deals for themselves. So we're going to continue to watch this evolve, but China definitely asserting itself. It's definitely making major plays. Did you see, before I forget, did you see what happened with Brazil? They just made a, now you got the Brazil USD yuan deal going on. I made a video about that one. That was a real big one because it's a long-term play for me, because if the U.S. is able to get Ukraine, there's only so many places you can get, let's say, excess agricultures. Australia, Eastern Europe, in the temperate zone. United States, in that southern cone of Brazil. So you got Brazil, Argentina, major agricultural breadbaskets. So going into Brazil I think is a great diversity play for China in the long run. But it's the distance is going to be, and distance and that security comes along with the distance. It's going to be something they have to watch out for. But we'll continue to watch things as they unveil. This is very interesting times, as the saying go. But please comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, share, subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.